10 screws. And they kept me in the hospital 10 days for it, and that just really whipped me right out.
Oh.
So now there's this walking thing going on, but now I'm in physical therapy. I'm going to aquatherapy, and that helps.
Good. That sounds more pleasant than regular physical therapy, is it?
You get in the water and you have no pain.
Oh, that's
can
good.
Move, you know, because of buoyancy. And I can hardly walk here, but then in the water, I can almost dance. You know, so.
Oh, wow.
And you're not worried about falling, because if you fall, you go in the water.
Yeah.
You know, you get wet. And so, but it really helps me.
Oh, good. Good. How do you keep developing those things?
Yeah. So how is the dog thing going?
Oh, with the county commission? A lot of people came out and spoke. I was, like, a lot of people were really upset about it, and that's why I didn't like it. It was a stunt. It was a stunt by the commissioner. He didn't really mean that. They may discuss it at some point, but he did it to draw attention, and he even said that. And I don't like how much he upset people, but I will say a lot of people with a lot of expertise that I didn't even know existed came and spoke. And that was neat. You know what I mean? And offered
On both sides.
No, really just the side of protecting animals. And they offered a lot of help to the commission and all of that kind of stuff. So that was a positive thing that came out.
Yeah, that is.
I did not like what he did though.
Well, sometimes you have to catch them like that, you know.
He was bad. Did we give him it? Oh, okay. I didn't say sort of stuff.
Interesting that a reporter is here. County press reporter is down there. It's done.
They found a listing of this investment. If at all. It wasn't backgrounds. I'm saying. I take them with 2 hands. All right, it is 7 o'clock. We're going to rise for the pledge.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We can have roll call.
Boskee,
Here.
Terry,
Here.
here, Lintz,
Here.
Dreier,
Here.
Ivory,
Here.
Bales.
Here.
Opening comments. Anybody have any opening comments before we get started?
I do. Just wanted to say good evening to everybody. I would like to take a moment to speak on behalf of Bruce Miles, who has submitted his name for appointment to Elba Township Planning Commission. Over the past several months, I've had the opportunity to get to know Mr. Miles and observe his dedication to both Elba Township and its residents. He has shown a clear commitment to uphold our master plan and to adhere to our ordinance. At recent general planning and ZBA meetings, Mr. Miles has consistently presented well-researched facts based on input. Even when the outcome didn't align with his perspective, he remained respectful and composed. That to me speaks volumes about his character. It has been brought up that only one applicant for the Planning Commission is involved in legal action against the township. I would like to address that. The unfortunate reality is that the lawsuit became necessary when the approval process for the 1-800 roll-off project was rushed through the Planning Commission. Many concerned residents asked important questions, especially about potential water contamination and the presence of wetland. The Planning Commission chair assured the residents that their questions would be answered, but that never happened. No proper provision was made for the wetlands inspection. You might say, well, that's in the past, but it isn't. If you drive past the site today, you will see that construction has ceased, and you ask yourself why. The department, the DEQ, which is the Department of Environmental Quality, has suspended development at their own risk, at the owner's own risk, because of multiple unaddressed wetlands on the property and critical issues that was ignored during the process, the approval process of the Planning Commission. This failure left the residents of Elba Township with no choice but to take legal action. Not out of defiance, but out of necessity to protect their drinking water in our community. Mr. Miles is one of those individuals who identified these problems early on. He raised valid concerns not only about the wetlands, but how Township Ordinance 200 was potentially being violated by allowing an industrial operation on a property zone C3. Mr. Miles is not only a concerned citizen, he is a man of integrity who has taken the time to study our master plan, our ordinance thoroughly. He is dedicated to following the rules and protecting our community as exactly what we need on the Planning Commission. I strongly urge this board to support Bruce Miles' appointment. He will be a knowledgeable, fair, and principled voice for Elba Township and its residents. It's time that we actually put someone on the board who actually has a background in education, not only in our master plan, but in our township ordinances, and has attended many meetings to familiarize himself with this. Thank you.
Anything else? Move down to approval of tonight's agenda in the meeting minutes of August 11th, 2025. Anybody have any additions, corrections, deletions, or otherwise?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda and the minutes from last week.
Support.
Motion's been made and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, you have approval of payment of the bills. What's the board's pleasure?
I make a motion to pay the bills as presented. Support.
We have motion and support to approve payment of the bills in the amount of $17,321.10. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Bales,
Yes.
Boskee,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Fountain, yes. Lintz,
Yes.
Dreier,
Yes.
Ivory,
Yes. Motion has carried. Correspondence. Anybody have any correspondence? No? Moves us down to reports. I just have a couple things, but they are important. I was contacted by Construction Code Authority. We have a township resident who actually, CCA contacted me. They were contacted by a pool company. The resident is having an in-ground pool installed. Our ordinances call for, if it's an in-ground pool, a 4-foot gate, fence and gate. If it's above ground, there's a ladder that comes up, self-latching, etc. Since that ordinance was written, manufacturers have developed a automatic pool cover that is capable of, well, all of us begin that. Actually, there's instances of livestock getting out, going across the pool. And so the building codes have said that you do not need a fence if the pool is equipped with this type of cover. Other municipalities, and we have adopted those same building codes by virtue of Construction Code Authority and our past adopting plumbing, mechanical, electrical. However, our ordinances still require that. CCA wants to know if, because they're installing this other type of pool cover, whether we're still going to require a fence. I said, that's not my decision. That's the township board, so you'll have to wait. So what's the board's feelings on this? There is nothing, it complies with the building codes, it conforms and meets all the standards of the applicable codes relative to in-ground pools. However, there is nothing stating that we can't have an ordinance that goes above and beyond, which in this case it would do that. Thoughts, questions? I do know, I had no idea about in-ground pools, so I had to do a little bit on this. I went to visit one of these pools. It's weird, not having a fence. To be honest with you, I looked and I'm like, I'm used to seeing a fence. But you can walk across it, you can do whatever, and
But it has to be shut.
it has,
So you need to open.
it auto closes.
Yeah.
I don't understand how this whole thing works. I don't know if it's like a hot tub, and I don't know. But it's an auto closing pool cover. I know nothing more about it than that. I don't have a pool, don't plan on getting one.
I think this should have been added as an agenda item in us.
I got it Thursday.
Right, but
And
I'm
so
just
they
saying
want-
that if we want, I have no problem discussing it, I just have a problem if we make a decision today, because to me, it's not something that any of us, I'm not familiar with it. I would like to do my due diligence before we, So I think it needs to be an agenda item.
Well, just Construction Code Authority forwarded on to me, and they said, do you want them to adhere to this, or are you happy with it meeting the code? And I said, that's not mine. I have a meeting on Monday. I'll bring it up to the board. I don't have a problem if this board says, I don't know enough about the pool covers, so we're going to mandate them have the 4-foot fence. And if this board wants to address that in the future, so be it. I don't have a problem with that either. It's just not my decision to say, yeah, you don't have to.
Right, but I still think it needs to be an agenda item for us to even make that determination. So I just think at this point, it needs to be added on to our next meeting, since we've already passed that section.
I don't think it's certainly that, so, excuse me, I don't know about pool. As you know, that's not mine. I think it's important to have that.
Well, we can do that. That's what our ordinances call for now. So in my opinion, if we're unsure whether or not we want to make that, then err on the side of caution and stick with what our ordinances say.
Well, we have a meeting in, 2 weeks, so I'm thinking that, at this point, I would rather just wait and give us time to actually be able to research it, either way. I don't want to just make a determination without doing my research.
Yeah, I'll just respond back to CCA and say, we have a meeting in 2 weeks. We're going to discuss it further at that point. If your client wants to, meeting all the seasonal things and get started on, then he has to comply with our ordinance, which is a 4-foot fence.
Right.
Okay. Next thing I want to mention is had the supervisors and NTA meeting last Tuesday. It was in Deerfield. A couple of things. We had Nathan Denny from the Lapeer County Health Department, and he's the new director of that division. He's been with them for 15, 16 years or so. And he covered a lot of the different requirements, the new things that are coming out. We discussed the record keeping for the septic permits. They're hoping to have a online, much better part of that, even interfacing with the treasurer's office fetch program, the GIS. We're going to be able to pull up your parcel and actually have that. That was good information. We had 123 Net, which if this board remembers, we did a franchise agreement with them about a year ago, in the last 12 months, going through Elba Township to bring fiber from Genesee County, take it out to Port Huron. It was one of those, like most of our franchise agreements, sign it or don't sign it, be fine, type thing. Representatives of that company were there though. They've had their different ribbon cutting in Davidson, I was going to go to that. Their timeline is starting in April, and they anticipate being done with that project middle of next fall. So April 26th, in the fall. Then they added, they'd just been notified the night before that they had applied for a BEAT grant and were successful. If everyone remembers Lapeer County, that was the path they were going down, the county commissioners, to create the middle mile, and that's what this pass-through township is, part of this middle mile. And Lapeer County was going to apply for that BEAT grant. That all fell apart. They didn't do it. 123 Net did, and they were one of 3 that won that BEAT grant. They don't know what the other ones got, how much there is, but it covers the installation for 7,000 households in Lapeer County. I asked the question, given the money and the time spent with the consulting and the surveys that were previously done by the previous county commission, if that was helpful at all, and they were emphatic that it was. That actually helped. In fact, Lapeer County had the best data of all of the counties in Michigan to support that. Lapeer County was the highest recipient of the BEAT grants in the state of Michigan. So that data did help. And as opposed to just generalized, we're not getting reception, it was address specific. Remember, I was really harping on everybody to take that download, upload speed, type thing. So that actually gave addresses specific to internet problems. So question was asked, okay, that timeline from April until the middle of February or middle of fall for the middle mile. So does that mean it's another 5 to 10 years for the connection to the house? And they said no, they actually go simultaneously. And so they said, 5 years or whatever. And their response was the hookup to those homes that they were dealing with was in the 2 to 3 year time period. So follow that out, that is, 26, 27. So that was good news from my standpoint. The only good news from that, The MTA, and I know that it's a problem with fire departments, I know it's a problem with service organizations, churches, and everything else, lack of participation. But it has gotten to the point of ridiculousness. I think the last two MTA meetings, if anybody has attended those, we start the meeting, and one of the first things we do is the introduction of the host board. And you belong to the MTA if you're a member of Planning Commission, ZBA, clearly as an elected official. We have 94 elected township officials in Lapeer County. We had a supervisors meeting prior to. We had 9 supervisors attend that meeting. And we had 2 when we started the MTA at 7 o'clock. Those 2 were on the executive board. It was our secretary and our treasurer for the MTA. 11 people. I'm old, but I'm not that old. When I started the MTA, we sent, Lapeer County chapter of the MTA, sent people to Washington every year. And now we can't even get 11 people. There's 94 elected officials, and then you add the boards and everything else on top of that. Well, there's good information that's out there, but for whatever reason, we'll back up, introduction to the host board. This is the second meeting in a row where no member of the host township board attended the MTA meeting that they were hosting. That's pretty sad. So they go host it in February. Give everybody plenty of time. I want to see our township board there. I want to see us represented. I want our planning commission there, our ZBA there. So, a little bit of work. That's all I have. Questions?
Have you gotten any information back to the DeCoos and how that's going?
I have not gotten nothing. We set the original thing. They didn't respond to that. I sent it back out again. That camera trailer, specialized piece of equipment, was broken, down for repairs, and now they're getting caught up with obviously the projects that they already had scoped out and everything. I have not gotten any additional dates. It comes up in my calendar to contact Chet, Blake, and all of them every 2 weeks. But as of yet, I don't have dates, to forward on. We need to have multiple, we've had meetings with Boulder, I've had meetings with EZ Operations, but to get all those entities together along with the DeCoos, obviously we have to get that out.
And have you had any issues?
There.
Yeah.
They had another call of something, not a big issue, but they did have an alarm within the last 60 days, 4 or 5 days. That one is on our, red flag. I mean, it doesn't matter whatsoever. We're out there. It's just a minor, I guess along with that, our place behind Castaways, as you know, that whole mess, we had an emergency call out there. And as you know, we have a third-party answer, so it's captured verbatim. And so I communicate with our ops and maintenance guys. They get the message, and it was, we have this sewage leaking in. They called Roto-Rooter, and they wouldn't even touch it due to the code violations. And I think the worst case scenario is they pulled them further away. What code violations? They got out and we responded. 24 hours we get out there and everything else. It was completely inside the home, and it was that particular owner's lack of maintenance and so forth, and the soil pipe not being glued just physically came apart inside the house. So I have documents, lots of pictures that protect us, so we know exactly what's going on. And then I forwarded on to their attorney, just where we at. We've had communications. Where we at? We can't go to winter again like this. Balls in your court. So, anything else? Treasurer's report.
I don't have much. It's been pretty steady, I would say, in the office, but summer is pretty slow up until the 15th. Usually it's 14th, but it's the 15th is the deadline. I had 2 auction properties that were owned by the Lapeer County Treasurer. One was Haverhill inside Monticello, and the other one is on actually Genesee Street, but its title was like that the same road. That one did not sell, the one in Haverhill did, for back taxes. So the other one is still available. I think it's probably gonna stay available. It's landlocked, it's up to this range. The drainage commissioners are at Hayes Road in Genesee. I don't know if you get to Hayes.
It's a road right away. It works to quote. It's the high weeds on the other side of Genesee Road from their house.
It's a whole strip between Genesee Road and railroad track.
Right, I mean, literally it's a strip, and that is part of the parent parcel, and that was all a farm for the railroad tracks, all those sort of things. Railroad tracks went in, and then at that time they had a crossing, the farm thing, as the railroad tracks have become more used, all those crossings have come out, let alone, Arson Road, Bassett, roads that used to have crossings. And so it is just this strip of land on the opposite side of the railroad tracks that, I don't know what you'd use it for. I mean, it's not from here to that back wall wide. You got Genesee Road on one side, and you got CN on the other side.
I went back and looked at the history of it, and it looks like for about the last 12 years, somebody will own it for 3 years.
Yeah.
When it goes to tax sale, they
Yeah.
don't get a tax advance, you can't do anything with it.
It's like our water property on Lake Neptune for so many years. Everybody knows the boat launch, and then there's the water that comes right up to the road. That's actually 3 parcels. They have 0 dry land and 100% underwater. And of course, back taxes, nobody buys it here in Lapeer County. It goes to the state auction, and the state sells it. And somebody says, well, it's got to be worth whatever they pay for it. It's water fund on Lake Neptune. They come into township offices and say, hey, I'm trying to locate my lots. We inform it's out there in the water. And then, of course, they wouldn't pay taxes. They would go back again. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, township has first right of refusal, but it has to be for a public interest. So we claimed it, took it off the tax rolls for the purposes of installing a dry hydrant. So they don't have that anymore.
That's all I have.
Clerk's report?
Doing some early preparations for the election.
Planning Commission.
We had our meeting last Monday, agenda item Stonegate. With controversy from the residents that came, Mr. Maloney felt that public time wasn't needed. We didn't have any correspondence in our packets, we didn't believe any new information was there. We voted on Stonegate and passed it. I did get your email, Kelly, about how you feel, which I got questions about that issue itself, but that's where we're at. One person complained that 1-800 roll-offs running down the back roads, not towards 69. Not much we can do about it.
Fire Chief.
I've been very busy. Big thing now, we're having pancake breakfast is September 14th, so come on up. September 14th, 8 to noon.
Taxes is due next day.
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay.
I did not through usually such questions.
I know.
I'm okay. Yes, ma'am.
So I guess I was out of town.
Hmm?
So, unfortunately, I was not able to be there. But at the last meeting, which would have been the June meeting, I personally asked, before the meeting ended, if more information was to be obtained, that information could be brought to the meeting, and would it be addressed? And the chair said yes. To me, personally, not to anybody else, so I'm not speaking for anybody else. So when I found out, and unfortunately I was 3 hours away, so I can't get down here, that happened, and the meeting happened from start to finish in less than 10 minutes, that was appalling. Because somebody took the time to do a presentation and to go down and get the information that I feel the planning commission should have got themselves after they heard what the residents' complaints were in June, before they passed that. And then they just pass it in 10 seconds. It's just terrible. And that's the reason why I read the statement that I did, because I feel we have to have somebody on these boards that will do their due diligence before they just sit down and make a vote. And I'm sorry, that's not even a question, but I did ask that specifically to him. I wasn't able to be there, so nobody thought that they needed to present it in advance. I asked that question if it was brought to the meeting. And he said yes. And then he did the complete opposite. And that's not the first time. That's happened for 1-800-ROBOT as well. He sat there and said every one of those questions were going to be answered. He sat there and wrote them down. How many questions were answered? None. Don't make a promise if you're not going to do it. I could see if you sat there and didn't say anything, but when you sit there and say you're going to do it, what we have is our word. And I just don't feel that our planning commission is educating themselves and doing their own research before they're making these decisions. And it is affecting our whole Elba Township. I'm sorry. No, I'm not.
All right. We don't have a county commissioner. GLTA, we did have a meeting.
We did have a meeting.
You're on a roll.
Hey, you're
But, you know, you're the big cheese here, so go ahead and. Lapeer Days.
We drove for Lapeer Days, and also we drove for the fair, so both of those are free events for passengers to be able to do that for the shuttle. We actually had quite a bit of turnout for Lapeer Days. It's not, I think we need to do some more promotion. Nita Payne came and did, because it was right before the meeting, so I was not, she was supposed to come the day before, so I was supposed to be part of it. So she did like a little commercial, and I think that would be something that's good to do, like a couple of weeks, like once a week on Lapeer discussion, to let everybody know you just have to park, you know, at the high school, and there's a free shuttle that will just take you, so you don't have to worry about trying to find a parking spot. So it just makes it really nice for people to go. So ridership is still doing good. We're gearing up for school to start, and no, we're not trooper service, but we still do school transportation for, especially for, oh my gosh, what is the charter school? Chatfield, thank you. For Chatfield and then school of choice, so we still transport student ages. So. And we've hired a couple of drivers, so they're going to be taking, 2 of them are going to be taking their CDL test, one Thursday, and the other one next week. Over, they take them over.
Parking lot, that was another thing.
Oh, the parking lot, yes. So just as far as the bids in for the parking lot, which is, we're just doing one section right now, but the bid that we have, we'll be able to do phase 2. So I'm very excited about that, because I had no clue how much the original bids were going to be in. So we're just waiting for MDOT to do that final stamp of approval so that we can move forward with even getting it done before the season's over.
Which we started last season, we didn't have bidders, contractors push us over this season, and it's August, and we're still.
Well, MDOT made a provision that anybody that would bid would have to hold to that, which nobody was going to do, because with COVID, prices change from last fall to, you know, the spring, and unless we would have gotten a contractor that would have guaranteed that bid, which we knew they weren't, because who knows what the quarries were going to charge, So that's when we opted just to wait until the spring to be able to put it up. So hopefully it's gonna get done before the season's over.
Anything else? EMS.
The main thing with EMS was they had, in the training center there on Genesee Street, they had a water test sample come back contaminated, so they were looking into that. It ends up, it's not a well problem, it's a filtration issue, and they did have a company come out to bid a whole new system, and it was gonna be way more than they wanted to get into, so they didn't even want to bid it. So when I went in there for the meeting, I noticed when I walked in, they had all of their water fountains and stuff were covered with garbage bags that said do not drink water. So what they decided to do was they're bottled water only, and the Culligan jugs like what we have here, and they are only using the sink water to cook with and stuff like that. So they implemented that they're going to do a water test every July just to check it, but they're no longer going to use the water there from the well.
Don't they have to do it anyway through the health department?
They said that they were doing tests periodically. I don't know.
What's mandated? I mean, we have,
And we do it every month.
We don't do,
why do you not have to?
because we're not like open to the public, so we still do it.
But it's not-
It's not mandated for us.
Well, we are.
Yeah, but we have fall rentals here. So the public's renting.
I know one of our adjoining municipalities failed, so they're under a monthly testing now. Which,
So, other than that, they're looking to have their budget for 2026 to the board by October because they want to work on employment contracts in January with the union. Health insurance is going to be the biggest topic on there. Last year it went up 28%, which was about $135,000 for the year before. So that's what they're looking at going forward to have that done in October.
anything else? Moves us down to our first agenda item, Potter's Lake Sewer User Fee Review and Resolution. At the last board meeting, it was decided that we should write a letter to the residents and have, similar to what we do for Lake Nepson. I said I would draft that letter and bring it back to the board here for their approval. It's in your packet. If you approve of that, and the date would be September 22nd at 7 p.m., our normal meeting time. We have the envelopes and everything ready, and they will go out in the mail tomorrow. Give them adequate time. Questions, comments? Okay, to sign that.
You already signed it.
Well, but it hasn't been mailed out. I haven't printed it.
I'm just saying you're.
Yep.
No, I think it's good.
That'll work.
We need to let them know, so.
All right, so that will be on the agenda for September 22nd. We're continuing to delve into different information, because this is our inaugural one, trying to, and I have my packet, so I keep tabs on it. So we have the information to provide, but I will give the board here just a quick little thing here. The cost for Genesee County, we have those. I'll print those off. Well, it doesn't make it correspond. Roughly run about $2,600 a month, but they can fluctuate wildly. For example, they can go up to over 8,000 gallons, or $8,000 per month. And so I went and done a side-by-side comparison with our meter reading, and then also in conjunction with issues that we have found. I hit on the $1 general. They have an access point from the detention pond. That was $8,000 a month, because we're basically taking all of the storm water from that entire Elba Corners and put it in the sanitary sewer. So part of this is also education of those residents. So what we do with Lake Nepson and the non-flushable, flushable items going down, that eaves troughs and some pumps and all that are not to be put into that system. I have all those numbers as well. In addition to everything else that's going in the packet, to be able to have a presentation that the residents desire.
Did we ever bill Flat Rock when they were flushing residents?
We did not bill them because it stopped, once we tracked it back and identified them, then they were responsible to put in a system similar to what the prison has. They have a catch basin on their property to catch those items. So we'd have been back billing, identifying and whatnot. In all honesty, it all went back to one client, patient, whatever you want in there, and they've since been transferred out. So we don't have a lot of things. All right, moving on to the next one. Gary Doctor's sewer tap request. You see in your packet the request to transfer his sewer tap. And then I also took from the treasurer's office Fetch GIS system an image. The image that you have, the red triangle, is the supervisor's plat, a small lot that has a tap on it. The parcel behind it is a meets and bounds parcel, as you see, much larger. What he's wanting to do is, as opposed to having the houses, you know how they are on lake close like that, he's wanting to utilize that parcel as a driveway and then be able to have his house on the back lot. The answer is, why doesn't he combine them? He would love to do that, except it's meets and bounds in the supervisor's plat, which we're not supposed to combine those two. Similar to my own properties, parts in section 23, the other parts in section 26, even though they're adjacent to one another, I can't combine those. So what he's wanting to do is take that sewer tap and extend it back onto that meets and bounds parcel. It is within the sewer district, so we're complying with the state and federal guidelines and the provisions of our original installation and loans and so forth. And it would, from a fire, from a code, everything else, allow us to, as opposed to being 7 feet off of another house further back. So it's this board's ability to do that.
I'm
Yes.
just not seeing a triangle. Am I missing
Did I say triangle? Rectangle?
it? Okay,
Well, you know,
okay. Well, I thought there was another. I see the rectangle, but I'm like, I'm
The red
looking for the
triangle.
triangle, and I thought maybe that.
well, then I misspoke.
Thank you.
The one with the white one on it is wrong. And so that is the supervisor's plat of Pratt's Landing. Parcel behind it.
So his driveway would run through the red person.
Correct.
Take it back to.
Correct.
And he owns that, the full big box behind, is that what you're
Correct.
saying?
Yes.
So what is the frontage
Frontage for what?
of that parcel? What's the road?
Whatever that lot, I have no idea. They're generally 30-foot lots there. So I'll go up to 40, but I have no idea what that one is. The supervisor's plat is not changing the lot dimensions at all. It's just, as opposed to choosing to build a house there. And as you see, as you go further back, you'll see some, and they have like their mark or whatever in the map. He just wants to have the house and everything, so he doesn't have, you don't want to be 7 feet off of a neighbor's house.
Is there a house on that parcel right now? The supervisor's plat?
No, so make it lot, correct. Both of these, the meets and bounds and the supervisor's plat are both of these.
Is there a way we could state that one plat cannot be sold without the other, if we do this?
If he sells the front, he's landlocked.
Yeah.
You can't have a landlocked, we don't allow easements. And then if you think about it, if you have a 30-foot you're already shoving a house into that. Imagine now having to give room for a driveway as well. I mean, if you have difficulty putting a house on a narrow lot, trying to put a house and somebody else's driveway, which we don't allow anyway, but that would be how you never do that.
And I just want to make sure that
That parcel's not really good to anybody if you can't go on it.
Well, it's probably buildable now, I mean, it would just be a small house. I mean, I can't believe a house that was put on. Right, but I'm just saying, still, you could put a house on
Oh, sure.
the lot.
Yes.
The way that it is.
Yeah, and with our ordinances, the laws, the state and everything says that a person has a reasonable expectation to utilize the property for which it's zoned. This is zoned residential. So if a person wanted to build a house there, we have an ordinance that says it has to be a minimum of 1,200 square feet, 900 feet on the first floor. It has to meet the setbacks for the front, the rear yard, and the side yard. If you can't meet that, then we would have the courts would say, why would you turn that down? Something has to give. The guy has a right to build a house there. Now, if he came and he said, I want to build a 2,600 square foot house, in order to do that, I need a side yard variance. Well, want and need. Our ordinances call for a minimum of 1,200 feet. He wants to build 2,600 feet. Well, you can scale down size of your house and comply with it. He's just saying, I don't even want to have to deal with, the narrowness. I own this land behind. It falls within the sewer. If it fell outside the sewer district, this is a moot point, you could do. But it is within the sewer district. He says, I want to have my house back on a larger parcel and just utilize this as a driveway.
I guess I would be fine with it as long as we impose a time limit for him to build that house. Otherwise, that we go back to its original state back on that parcel.
Oh, and then I do have, in following our precedent we have here, as you know, it's the hookup, the remaining is $5,424. Because it is going off that lot, the same as we deal with, the person that tears down a cottage and builds, a new home. If the grinder pump can remain in that location where it's originally intended, we reconnect, no harm, no foul. If the building designs mean that the resident wants the grinder pump moved to a different location, they bear the actual and true cost of doing that. So I've informed Mr. Doctor, if we do this, because it's going off the parcel, if the cost of doing this exceeds the $5,424, which you're guaranteed of, those costs will be borne by. So if it totals $6,000, he's got to pay the remaining, that's $6,000. Yeah.
I still think we should impose a time limit for that house to be built. That's a possibility. Just because at the end of the day, then what happens if something changes and they decide not to build or whatever, then it should actually revert back to the parcel.
So I'm less inclined for the timeline. I would be more inclined to put a limitation, just giving all of that front parcel shall not have any accessory buildings or otherwise on it. Only used as a driveway and access point. I think that would be more, as opposed to, you're still utilizing that lot for sheds or something along those lines.
I don't know, can we put that provision in such a, that's a record? I mean, as long as.
If we put a provision that says that they have to build within so much time.
Well, yeah, because we're allowing this, and all we have to do is say that we're allowing this until this time. If you don't build before this time, then it goes back to its original state. But as far as, as long as they're complying with their ordinances on their property, and if we allow, there's some townships that don't allow sheds in front of your home, that's not us. So at the end of the day, I don't feel that we can put that stipulation, as long as it's not something that's a livable structure, which it can't do anyways, so they won't try. Yeah. I do, I would just say within a time limit, and then they can come back if they are in the midst of constructing it, to come back for, any additional, but I just don't think we're doing this for this homeowner, we're not doing it for him to be able to sell it about 6 months down the road, to do it that way. Is all I'm saying.
It's a good sell, the same thing. Well, our normal building permit, our normal, whether it's a site plan, is the year and a half, after a year and a half, or it's not old. The site plan has to be apply for a building permit after a year and a half. It's not done, you have to apply for an extension, so if we're gonna do that, that's kind of standard. I think given the time frame that we're at now, August, I would think that he would start until the spring anyway.
I don't know, they build it.
That's true. I would. So what's the board's pleasure? What do you want to do with this?
I make the motion that we approve it, but with the time of the year and a half.
We have a motion, we have support. We have a motion and support to approve the tap transfer to the meets and borrows parcel as specified in the letter with a time frame of a year and a half to start building his house. Questions, discussions? All in favor of the motion, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Moves us down to appointments. We have a couple of different ones. The aforementioned Planning Commission, first and foremost. I went through and discussed with different applicants, had people say they would and then change their mind, one. And ultimately, through the interview process and so forth, I would like to nominate Matthew Dreier to the vacant seat on the Planning Commission. The board requested last meeting in correspondence with provided that, so that had that information. I do have Mr. Dishman's resume, if anybody would like that. And I have Mr. Dishman in the audience as well. He's a resident of Lapeer. He has 2 adult children, although one of them is still living with him. I understand that whole thing. Has a master's degree in science and maintenance, and has worked through the school systems and now through the school credit union in the ops and maintenance and so forth of those buildings. He's familiar with the site plan process, albeit from the other side of the table. He has been the applicant in dealing with whether it's special land uses, whether it's zoning, etc. So I think it's a wise choice, obviously qualified, and that's my nomination.
This is for Justin's remainder.
Is it Justin or Lapeer?
Rita, please speak
They
into your
have
mic,
the,
we can't hear you.
He left, moved away, Lapeer. But it would be for the remaining term. The last one, was it Justin? Was the last one? Then it would be Justin Patrick. For the remainder of his term. We have support?
I'll support.
We have motion and support. All in favor, signify by aye.
Can I have discussion?
Okay.
Normally,
Well, we only don't have an opening comment, so they vote for, so.
well, because I actually knew what was going to happen, which is shameful. Regardless, I have nothing against Mr. Dishman at all. This is the first time I've ever seen him come to a meeting, and I feel we have other applicants. We have had in our last couple of board packets, many of our residents recommend him and give Mr. I can't believe that this is the decision we're making after the debacle that we've been going through. So I would like a roll call vote, because I think this is terrible, and I think the people of our township needs to know how everybody voted.
I will roll call.
Ivory,
Yes.
Bales,
No.
Boskee,
Yes.
Terry,
No.
Fountain, yes, Lintz,
No.
Dreier,
Yes.
Motion is carried. The other one was for the Lake Lapeer Improvement Board. However, as everyone knows, I have a past practice of requiring them in writing to notify me that they still want to, and I have not got that from this applicant, so I'm ready to make that. Moves us down to public time. Anybody in the audience wish to bring anything before the board? State your name and address and have at it.
Hello, I'm Karen Pacheco, I'm a Lapeer County resident. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Mayfield Township, and I promise I'm going to bring it right back here.
Turn it on.
It's not bad?
Yep.
Is that better? Okay,
Yes,
thank you. Actually, I want people to be able to hear. You guys are doing better with the mics, by the way. So I will be brief, but so back in, I witnessed all of this happen, by the way. I'm talking about the library in Mayfield Township in December. They decided to basically kick their library board member off of the board. They should not have done that. She had one more year on her term, but they made all these claims about how they only appointed her to a 3-year term, which is illegal in the state of Michigan, and they appointed somebody else, Carol Brown, to a 5-year term. Anyway, they basically pressured this woman, Dr. Nina Sharma-Jones, off of Lapeer Library Board and replaced her with someone, quite frankly, far less qualified, who was very unimpressive as a board member, in my opinion. And the person who did this was Julie Schlau. Orchestrated a lot of this and admitted it and said it in meetings. That is Kelly Bales' sister, who I have heard. Thank you for nodding. Yes, I verified that. And then where does Kelly Bales end up? Kelly Bales ends up on a committee, a Lapeer District Library Committee, the Policies and Bylaws Committee. And I attended all the meetings but one of those, and I'm not impressed with Kelly's. I don't know why she was. I just think it's it's more than a coincidence when a clerk gets someone kicked off of a board, basically, removes someone from a board, and then her sister ends up on a committee. And now that sister Kelly is on this Policies and Bylaws Committee. And I gotta say, just as someone who went to graduate school for writing and editing, hearing someone with far less qualifications than the people who designed the policies and bylaws tear them apart strikes me as arrogant, I'm going to say. And it's disturbing. But other things have happened that are also disturbing. Just today, there was a man there who has repeatedly requested that everyone speak up because he cannot hear, and many people in the room have. And this is an ADA thing, I'm sure you realize I brought up Title II obligations under the ADA. And it's been ignored by this committee, which Kelly Bales sits on. And she is loud enough, thank goodness, but she cannot police her fellow committee members. However, she could certainly encourage them to be louder, she could certainly encourage them to get a microphone. But her silence struck me, particularly knowing what her day job is. So I'm really not impressed with any of that. Also, she seems to be buddies with John DeAngelis, a Lapeer District Library trustee. John DeAngelis, on July 19th, I got a tip that he was at the Axe My Tax booth at Mayfield Tavern. So I went and I drove there and I took pictures of this. It is a direct violation of his fiduciary duty to the library board as a trustee for him to be having people sign petitions that would defund the library by 90%. About 90%, it's like 89.25, something like that, of the library's funding comes from property taxes, and Axe My Tax wants to get rid of those. And yet, Kelly, after every meeting, is chatting with John DeAngelis, and I just find that really, really interesting. Bill Hamilton, who's also on that committee, also sits in the Ask My Tax booth and gets petition signatures. Also at a meeting, I think it was 2 or 3 meetings ago, I have to check the tape, John Dandridge brought in what looks to be a petition and had that at the table and asked Peggy Brodsky to sign it. That seemed really inappropriate to me at a nonpartisan committee meeting. Anyway, I wanted to bring all of that to your attention. Also, your county commissioner has, Mr. Nisley, repeatedly voiced support for Act My Tax at county commission meetings. Anyway, I just wanted to bring you that information, and Kelly, really not impressed.
What does that have to do with Elba Township?
She's a trustee here. And library is from here. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Mike Ivory, 4924 Stewart Road. I just wondered if you guys had discussed anything about the culvert down Stewart Road. And then another thing, just let Ms. Bales know that the planning commission chairman followed the agenda right to the T because public time is down at the bottom. They went through their meeting, ran their meeting just like you. I had no say in appointments or the sewer doctor or anything like that. I had none of that. I don't get to speak till after you all vote. Same thing planning commission did. You ran the meeting according to the agenda.
Anybody else?
He ran to the agenda.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I just have a question. Well, first of all, for the board's information, you indicated you would talk to all the candidates who had indicated an interest in the open position on the planning commission. You did not even acknowledge my letter requesting consideration, much less interview me or talk with me about my desire to be part of that committee. Just to clear the record on that. The public time. How is it that public time on the agendas is always scheduled after deliberation and voting on any of the issues? How are the committees or the board enabled to take public's comments into consideration if they don't hear the comments until after the votes have already taken place? How is this happening, and what would it take for whether it's the board meeting, the planning commission meeting, or the ZBA, move the public hearing, public comments to the beginning of the meeting, toward the beginning of the meeting, so that you have all of you have an opportunity to hear them before deliberating on whatever it is that's at issue. How does that happen? What would have to happen to make that happen? Whose decision is it?
Anything else?
No, I was hoping maybe I'd get an answer.
Oh, Ms. Brown, I answer after we go through.
Yeah, I know. I'd have to come up and speak to you privately to get an answer that we'd all be interested in hearing. I get it.
Anybody else? All right, we'll go back in to answer the questions. Mr. Ivory, relative to the culvert, myself, Ms. Terry, and Ms. Bales met with the road commission about our concerns with that. We proposed where the townships pay for the materials and not the labor, the trucks, and everything else in the road commission, because they're the road commission staff. It's not like we can change that. They wrote it down. That's the last we heard of it. And I was talking to the director of the road commission, can't go any higher. At our MTA and supervisors meeting, that was a topic of discussion. I didn't even have to bring it up. A whole bunch of the townships are very frustrated with the road commission and the quality of work and so forth this year. But the thing that was noted, one of the townships had requested an itemized bill of project. They took it to their foreman. The foreman got back with them, and per the director of the road commission, they're no longer permitted to provide any sort of itemized bill. This is the total cost, like it or not. So I think he had something to do with that. Mr. Miles, I did speak with you actually quite a bit, and quite honestly.
When? What are you talking about?
We're going back last year.
Oh, no, wait.
Hold on. We're not going to get into a debate here. I'm answering
I gotta correct you, sir. You have not spoken to me since this most recent opening on the planning commission occurred. There was an opening that had occurred sometime last fall that I had indicated an interest in, and then based on the corrupt practices of the planning commission, I withdrew my name from consideration because I'm a law and order guy and I didn't want to be part of that bullshit. The new opening came up, and as I wrote to you very specifically, my feeling is that if the good people of this township don't step forward to fill some of these openings as they occur, we're going to continue to have some of the same kind of problems that we've always had. That was a new request for consideration. You did not speak to me once, much less give me the courtesy of acknowledging my interest in that position. So yes, we talked last fall. It had nothing at all to do with this opening, and I would appreciate it if you would acknowledge that to the board members who are listening to your side of the story.
To the second part of your question about the public time, this has been on there. That's the way when I came in the office, that's where it was located. If this board would like to change it, I don't have a problem in the world with changing it, moving it to a different location.
I would hope somebody on the board would make a motion to do that.
All right, no additional agenda items, so the meeting adjourned. So we had our 9 supervisors, and we have 2. We have a supervisor meeting at 5:30, and then it goes to 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I remember you did say that. I think every board. Everybody in both boards.